Good evening. I'm Judy Woodruff on the NewsHour tonight.
I am officially declaring a national emergency.
The state of the pandemic. Financial markets rally, but major shutdowns continue to cascade. A federal aid package is still up in the air as COVID-19 touches every aspect of American life. Then, coping with the coronavirus, we examine the psychological effects of the pandemic, how to address our fears, and keep a healthy state of mind in a crisis.
I think what we're getting into is a spiral of fear that is leading to people to engage in responses that aren't very helpful.
And it's Friday. Mark Shields and David Brooks offer their thoughts on the pandemic, the Trump administration's response, and this trying time. All that and more on tonight's PBS NewsHour.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by...
The United States is officially under a national emergency. The COVID-19 pandemic has now infected some 1,700 Americans and claimed the lives of nearly 50 people. Today's emergency declaration triggered a rally on Wall Street after yesterday's historic nosedive. The Dow Jones Industrial Average surged 1,985 points to close above 23,185. The Nasdaq soared 673, and the S&P 500 rose 230. But overall for the week, stocks posted their worst 5 days since the 2008 global financial meltdown. Meanwhile, as outrage intensified over the lack of available testing, states took matters into their own hands to help slow the spread. Thousands of schools closed across the country. More major sporting events were postponed or canceled. And one state's presidential primary was even delayed. Amna Nawaz begins our coverage.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Weeks into the spread of COVID-19 in the U.S., President Trump ramps up the federal response.
Today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. No resource will be spared, nothing whatsoever.
The move opens up to $50 billion in federal resources for state and local governments to respond, similar to action taken in the face of previous public health crises. President Bill Clinton in 2000 reacting to West Nile virus, and President Barack Obama in 2009 to contain the H1N1 flu pandemic. President Trump's team announced a new website for citizens to screen their symptoms and find a testing site if needed. And they also announced hundreds of thousands of additional tests potentially available next week through an expedited process now underway. The House of Representatives has been working with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin on a sweeping aid package aimed at reducing the pandemic's economic impact. Today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi pledged to push forward with that bill without saying if Republicans or the White House had bought in.
The three most important parts of this bill are testing, testing, testing. This legislation facilitates free coronavirus testing for everyone who needs a test, including the uninsured. We can only defeat this outbreak if we have an accurate determination of its scale and scope.
All this as COVID-19 cases continue to rise in the U.S. Known cases have now spread to at least 47 states and Washington, D.C., though testing remains limited. In New York, drive-through testing was rolled out today. In New Rochelle, still under strict containment after a recent outbreak. A similar curbside program in Denver, where Coloradans yesterday waited in long lines to get tested. And across the country, mass cancellations continued of major sport events and large gatherings, as did closures of schools and universities. Eric Williams is superintendent of Loudoun County, Virginia schools.
I mean, we have lots of two-parent working families, and many of whom don't have significant flexibility in terms of taking off in order to care for their children. And so this was a consideration, but at the end of the day, we needed to make our decision based on student and staff safety.
And for the first time today, a delay in the 2020 election cycle. Here's Louisiana's Secretary of State.
Today, I have certified that a state of emergency exists and requested that the governor issue an executive order postponing the elections. Safe and secure elections also mean safety to the people of Louisiana. That's why I signed the certification.
As England announced a year-long delay in its local elections, World Health Organization officials reiterated that all of Europe remains at high risk.
Europe has now become the epicenter of the pandemic. More cases are now being reported every day than were reported in China at the height of its epidemic.
In Italy, another grim benchmark, as infections soared by more than 2,500 cases to more than 17,600, and virus-related deaths jumped by more than 250, now totaling more than 1,200, the biggest single-day jump since the outbreak began, leading officials in Denmark to temporarily close the country's borders. In Brazil, reports that the first head of state was infected forcefully disputed by Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and his son, Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro, in an interview with Fox News.
I want to confirm that the test is negative.
Concerns were raised after an aide to Bolsonaro tested positive for the virus after accompanying him to the U.S. last week and meeting with President Trump. President Trump has so far not been tested, but today said he likely will be.
I didn't say I wasn't going to be tested.
Are you going to be?
Most likely, yeah.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, an administration leader on coronavirus, expressed confidence that the administration's newest efforts would have an impact.
What's going on here today is going to help it to end sooner than it would have.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Amna Nawaz.
Is Lisa going to have? Across the country, it has been another day of major closings, postponements, and cancellations. At least 12 states announced in the past 24 hours that they are closing schools statewide. All of the latest seen here on this map. Major school districts announced their own closures, including the second largest district in the country, the Los Angeles and San Diego Unified School District. More than 21 million students nationwide will be out by next week. The Masters Golf Tournament, which is traditionally played at the start of April, was postponed, as was the Boston Marathon. In the world of entertainment, Disney announced that it is halting all production of live-action films, and the late-night shows on television have shut down production for the remainder of the month. For a closer look at today's developments and the politics of the pandemic, I'm joined now by our Lisa Desjardins and Yamiche Alcindor. So, Yamiche, this national emergency the president declared today, what exactly does it allow to happen now that couldn't happen before?
Well, the president took a major step today in declaring this national emergency. And what it's going to do, he says, is have the full force of the federal government focused on and targeted on a coronavirus response. So walking through some of the things that it's going to do, it's going to provide $42.6 billion in disaster aid that's going to be able to go through states, through FEMA, which is, of course, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It has been something that's happened when it comes to hurricanes. The other thing that the national emergency is going to do is food assistance, shelter, and medical responses. That's basic needs that Americans might need. And the other thing it's going to do is unemployment and insurance and overtime payment. And that's going to be focused on workers who are impacted by the coronavirus. So what we're seeing here is the president really trying to say we are stepping up efforts. And of course, this is all happening as the president himself says he will likely be tested for coronavirus. We now know that there were 2 people at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida that have tested positive for the virus.
2 people now.
2 people now.
So separately, Lisa, the president and the Congress have been trying to work out a deal to help people who are either out of work or too sick to go to work. And there's some news just in the last few minutes.
In the space of time that it took Amna Nawaz's package to play just now, we have learned that there is a deal between Speaker Pelosi, the House Democrats, and the White House. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent out a letter to her Democrats saying they've reached an agreement. I am reading through it right at this moment. They said they have secured some emergency leave, 2 weeks of sick leave for workers, and up to 3 weeks of paid family and medical leave. There is, I suspect, about $1 billion for food security. That would include seniors who are homebound, as well as children whose schools close and they rely on free and reduced lunch. There are a lot of questions about this, but today was a very difficult day because everyone knows the importance of dealing with these very first vulnerable populations, and yet the White House and House Democrats could not reach a deal. It looks like at this minute, they finally have, after 24 very tough hours of negotiations. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin on the phone a dozen times today trying to get this done.
And that sounds like a number of false starts where it looked like they were close, but they just weren't there until literally right now.
The devil's in the details, and they say they have those details worked out.
Now we go to South Korea to see what seems to be working in the fight against COVID-19. The government there is spending nearly $10 billion to fight the country's outbreak. As special correspondent Bruce Harrison discovers, money is just part of the fight. It also takes communities willing to come together.
Kim Kyung-soo took off work as a bus driver to pitch in on what's become the national priority here, defeating COVID-19. Now he's volunteering at this drive-through test clinic.
As citizens, we're here for the safety of our fellow citizens to volunteer for Goyang City.
Anyone can pull in with or without symptoms. This local office worker is here just as a precaution. He tells nurses he recently smoked a cigarette with someone who may have been in contact with infected people. After taking his temperature, they say he seems symptom-free for now, but to come back if that changes. Others receive a much more thorough exam based on their physical symptoms and potential exposure to confirmed patients. Thousands of Koreans have driven through this clinic in the past 2 weeks. It's free, takes 10 minutes, and you get results in 2 to 3 days.
Staying sick longer only increases costs and puts people's lives in danger. You must find them quickly, and you must not be frugal about the costs. It's the state's basic duty to support the lives of its people.
More than 200,000 South Koreans have now been tested. Top health officials gathered this week in Seoul to share their results, and they didn't skimp on precautions in a room full of journalists.
With a transparent and open society as the goal, we'll recommend a response system that blends voluntary public participation with creative application of advanced technology.
Text messages alert the public to the location of confirmed cases, and quarantined patients update the government on their health via smartphone app. Seoul has rejected citywide lockdowns and left its borders open to everyone except those coming from the hardest-hit region of China.
The consensus among public health professionals seems to be that travel bans are not effective in containing contagious illnesses and can make things worse, even by fueling a sense of complacency.
Korea's neighbors China and Japan disagree, banning travelers from South Korea's worst affected regions. Despite tougher quarantine measures, Japan is struggling ahead of the prize Summer Olympics. South Korea partly credits mass testing for its relatively low death ratio among hard-hit areas. The country's ratio is less than 1% compared to more than 4% in Iran and 6% in Italy. And today, during a Pentagon video conference, the top U.S. commander in South Korea also credited testing for keeping COVID-19 off U.S. bases, testing initially done by the Koreans.
They've been extraordinary partners. We've typically got our test results turned around in about 24 hours.
One U.S. service member and 8 others connected to the U.S. military here have tested positive. But General Robert Abrams said strict controls and transparency prevented a larger outbreak.
For example, daily live stream community briefings by our garrison and installation commanders with questions and answers, as well as multiple virtual town halls with our senior commanders.
Most Korean cases have been limited to the country's southeast, but recent cluster infections in Seoul may test the Korean model for success.
This testing center was set up specifically for residents and employees of this building where there's been a large outbreak of COVID-19. And as you can see behind me, a gentleman has just sat down. He's beginning the testing procedure. The outbreak here has really concerned this community. A lot of small businesses, cafes, and restaurants have closed down temporarily. And perhaps more concerning is that right along this area runs one of Seoul's most busy metro lines.
Typically, hundreds of thousands of people transfer at Chindorim Station every day. There's now just a trickle during rush hour, now that there's been an outbreak up the road. One area in this neighborhood where foot traffic hasn't slowed is outside of pharmacies. The government has limited customers to just 2 masks a week to make sure healthcare workers get what they need first. Still, there's no panic here as people in this community come together to cope.
I'd like to buy more masks, but I know if I did that, others wouldn't be able to. So, I feel I shouldn't.
He says foreigners who don't find masks necessary may have a change of heart as the coronavirus continues its deadly global march. You have to experience it personally, he says, to understand. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Bruce Harrison in Seoul.
The U.S. State Department today summoned the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. after an incendiary accusation by a Chinese official over COVID-19. In a tweet, a Chinese ministry spokesperson alleged that the U.S. Army brought the virus to Wuhan, the original epicenter of the outbreak. But he cited no evidence to support that claim. And already there have been overwhelming acts of generosity. But in the meantime, some of us are acting in a way that could end up unintentionally hurting others. Grocery store and pharmacy shelves that normally are piled high with toilet paper, Kleenex, and paper towels are now empty. Several days ago, people started buying all the hand sanitizers and disinfecting wipes they could. It's understandable. We want to keep our families and ourselves safe. But it's also worth remembering that this is a time for the lucky, healthy ones to think of others. Maybe there's an elderly couple who didn't get to the store as early as they wanted. Perhaps someone with a disability or a weakened immune system couldn't get there at all. This is a moment for Americans to show our best qualities. We're going to work our way through this. Let's keep others who may not be as strong and resilient as we are in mind, too. And that's a NewsHour for tonight. I'm Judy Woodruff. Please stay safe this weekend. Thank you and good night.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know you wonder why the Sunday law is so important. It is just a day of worship. This dreadful Sunday law is coming back to persecute the people. And it has something to do with the coronavirus. And it's basically Donald Trump is saying that the coronavirus will not stop until the Sunday law worship is imposed. Therefore, you must understand this, that there's a crisis coming. And you know, in a crisis, true characters reveal. People are in a great panic right now. The country is in great terror. Everything is shut down. It is martial law. If you don't know what martial law is, now is martial law. And it could be here for a very long time. Or it may halt for a while, but it will come back. I guarantee you, martial law will continue either throughout the year, or it will pause and it will come back again. But it will happen twice this year. This is martial law. And there's a great crisis with a terrible disease. And the government knows it, but they are allowing this to happen because they want to bring the country under conformity. And I'm going to show you what Sunday has to do with coronavirus. Please stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to read what Donald Trump said on his Twitter account on Fox News. Trump declares Sunday a national day of prayer amid coronavirus. Read carefully. President Trump declared on Friday a national day of prayer for this coming Sunday, shortly after declaring a state of emergency amid the fast-spreading coronavirus pandemic. Now listen to his quote. We are a country that throughout history has looked to God for protection and strength in times like these. Trump also tweeted, no matter when you may be, I encourage you to turn towards prayer in an act of faith. Together, we will easily prevail. Read further down in the tweet. The annual National Day of Prayer is scheduled for May 7th. Trump's announcement came after he declared a national emergency over the coronavirus pandemic. And it goes on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, this pandemic is connected to the National Sunday Law. A Sunday law that for ages have murdered Christians. And as soon as they can, they will use this crisis to pass the National Sunday Law. And it is coming. It is not a game. It will come. And they're going to use this Sunday Law to punish the people of God. This is not just a crisis killing people. This is a crisis to persecute God's chosen people. So, get ready. Prepare yourself. Because this is not just a crisis. This is the end of times. And great, marvelous, and horrible things are coming. The government knows it. But they're going to allow it to happen. Because they must accomplish their agenda. Thank you.
Know the truth of the coronavirus and what President Trump is planning to do. Know the truth about world chaos and the horrors the government wants to happen, to control you and force you to worship false gods. The sun worship carries a dark secret. To murders those who does not yield to Sunday worship to stop the viruses and the awesome calamities and terror. These are the past proceedings for a Sunday law enforcement or death by the Romans governmental powers in your government.
You're watching VNN, the Vatican News Network, World News Today. And now, here's Katerina Vega.
At the suggestion of the former United States, the Vatican officially passed a new law mandating that all citizens of the world government must attend Mass. In light of the recent calamities on our cities, Pope Matthew says that universal attendance to church will show the Lord that there is still good left in mankind. As a compliance incentive, the Vatican intends to use the chip implants released 2 years ago as the now only acceptable form of currency. Churches from all denominations worldwide are being fitted with sensors that will automatically add funds to a person's implant upon entering a sanctioned church on Sundays. Failure to comply with the new laws is punishable by imprisonment or even death. Under the leadership of the Vatican, the world has seen tremendous religious reform. Miracles abound. Claims have been made that the sick are being healed and loved ones in heaven are communicating with their families. However, even under our new leadership, natural disasters are steadily increasing at an alarming rate. His Excellency the Pope has stated that he believes the reason for this is that God is displeased with a small group of heretics that refuse to keep the Sunday Sabbath holy. World citizens are encouraged to report anyone that either chooses another day of worship or that refuses to worship altogether. These people are a danger to the human race. Only by becoming fully united can we hope to have peace and please the Lord. As a precaution against an uprising from potential extremists, the papacy has enacted martial law in most major cities worldwide. World citizens are to comply with all local authorities. In other news, thousands of reports have been arriving in our studio that both children and the elderly are mysteriously dying at an astonishing rate. No word yet on the cause.
Debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back to having a moral rebirth.
I just want to thank you all for being with us today, because we're going to be signing a day of prayer, and that'll be on Sunday. It'll be a very special day, and I don't know when this was done last, but it's been a long time ago. Is that a correct statement? It's been a long time ago. So I'm going to sign it, and then a few of the folks will say a few words, and Pastor Jeffers will say a prayer for not only the people so affected, so horribly affected by Hurricane Harvey, but for the people of our nation, and in fact the people of our world. going to all of you.
Review the evils of Sun worship and Sunday worship to the false Jesus and not the God of heaven who wants Saturday worship. Please pray for these dear people who wants Babylonian worship. Sunday is the mark of the beast.
The death toll of the Wuhan coronavirus has risen to 170, and the number of confirmed new cases has grown to more than 7,000. The outbreak started in Wuhan City in December 2019. Now it's reached every corner of China and hit over a dozen other countries around the world. But here's how this outbreak compares to others. Both the SARS and Wuhan outbreaks started in China and are believed to have originated from wild animal markets. During the 2002 to 2003 period of infection for SARS, there were nearly 8,098 reported cases and 774 deaths. The Ebola virus was first discovered in 1976 near the Ebola River, in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Since then, the virus has been infecting people from time to time. The largest outbreak was in West Africa and occurred from December 2013 to January 2016, with 28,646 cases and 11,323 deaths. The bird flu, an illness that usually affects only birds, was first identified in Italy in the early 1900s. The first documented case of human infection was in Hong Kong in 1997, killing 6 people. Since 2003, there have been 2,178 confirmed human cases and 976 deaths worldwide. The first identification of swine flu as a disease in pigs occurred in 1930. There was a pandemic outbreak across the globe, which lasted from 2009 to 2010. A 2012 study estimated a range between 151,700 and 575,400 deaths.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to make an appeal to the world. Whether or not this appeal would touch the hearts of soul of anyone, I don't know. But what I want to tell you is, please stop the eating of unhealthy animals. God gave you a set of animals to eat in Leviticus chapter 11. If you read chapter 11, you will see all the animals that God gave you the right to eat. And if you have any scientific knowledge, I would rather you be a vegetarian. But if you wish to eat meat, my greatest recommendation is to eat meat that is organic or kosher. Now I'm telling you, God is unhappy with the world, and he's causing some of these viruses. Maybe the devil could be doing a portion of it too, because he's very happy. And your government is not telling you the truth because they know the problem of these viruses, and they know this is coming, and they're really not trying to find a quick cure to these viruses. They want these people to die. so they can depopulate the country and achieve their agenda. I don't know everything. I just know a few things. But I will tell you, eat to live. Don't live to die. Obey the laws of God. The Bible says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Obey my word. Jesus loves you. And I'm telling you, if you like to eat shrimps, crabs, shark meat, bat meat, all these unhealthy things, bugs, snakes, you won't be in heaven. God don't want cannibals into heaven. If you're trying to go to heaven, you must eat, drink, do all to the glory of God. I'm telling you, if you don't eat right, you'll be lost. You could be lost for very simple things. You don't have to worry about someone shooting you. You don't got to worry about falling off a cliff or dying from a virus. Just keep eating the wrong things and you won't be in heaven. It's real simple. Trust in God. Do the healthy things that you need to do. Keep your body right. Watch all these sexual experiences with certain women who could have the coronavirus. Don't eat unclean foods. Wash your hands, sanitize your hands. Yes, do some of those things. But the main cause of these viruses is what you're consuming. If you are a consumer of pig meat, you may lose your life. You got to eat to live. Pigs got parasitic worms. It is unhealthy. It's one of the meats that God despises very badly. My brothers and sisters, a storm is coming. A great storm, a great hurricane, a great earthquake, a great disaster of the greatest magnitude. I don't know what those disasters could be, but they are tremendous and spectacular and destructive. Please get your soul right with God, because if you die in sin, there is no hope. There is no heaven. And I love you, whether you're a man or a woman. I love you as a human being. And I'm asking you to save your soul now. I just had a friend by the name of Belkis Pena. I didn't know she was going to die. 2 weeks ago, I've been telling her about the end times. And I said, Belkis, are you ready for the end? Are you exercising? Are you eating all the right foods so in case you get thrown in prison for your religion, can you survive? She says, well, I'm trying. I'm not running like I used to. I said, you need to do it. I said to her, she said, well, you know, this thing about persecution, I just can't think about it. I said, well, you better think about it because it's coming. You're going to be thrown in prison. You're going to be raped. You're going to be brutalized. Are you ready? She says, no. I don't think I'm ready. Maybe God heard her prayer and knew she wasn't ready. And she had passed away just a few days ago. So there it is. I'm sorry I lost my friend. But I think I know one thing. I believe she'll be in heaven. She lived her life as perfect as she could possibly live. And I'm sure God will be gracious. God knows the heart even before you can do what you do. He knows. He's an all-knowing God. And he probably knew she wasn't ready for this tremendous terror that is coming. And I'm telling you, if you got pain, you got body pains, you got handicap situations, get it right. Fix your teeth, fix your eyes, fix your legs, fix your heart. Do all what you're going to do. Eat all the best food in the world. Because the time is coming when United States and all different parts of the world will become like Venezuela. A terror is coming. Get your soul right with God. And Get yourself physically prepared. Don't be a fool. People are ready to rob the stores. Right now they're paying for the food. Soon they're going to just rob the food. A terror is coming, and the government knows it. This is why all these martial law camps are prepared. Walmarts are shut down. Over 800 Walmarts are shut down all around the world. It's because they know what's coming. And I want you to get ready. Get your soul right with God. Jesus loves you. It's better to be safe than sorry. This is my special recommendation. Thank you for listening.
Tracking 4 small incoming over Europe. I think one's about to hit near Paris.
Ladies and gentlemen, get our End Time 13 set DVD called End Time Angel Message, the newly released version of the End Times. A full money back guarantee if you are not satisfied. We got the best DVD ever. Here is what is included: food preparation for 2 to 5 years, climate disasters preparedness, real Bible prophecy of what is going in your world today, how to prepare your health for persecution and disasters, and how to save your soul with God before the end.
It is done.
The events of today are unheard of. As the rivers and streams are approaching flood stage, thousands are still without power following the horrific tornadoes. 3 twisters have touched down just south of town. And now, a rolling motion. I believe we're having an earthquake. I have never before seen such horrific weather. I advise you to take cover immediately.
There's a mighty earthquake that signals the approach of a massive heavenly armada. The children of God, so recently pale and haggard, now stand encircled by a rainbow and radiant before their oppressors. Their faces shine, for they know their Redeemer and his vast army of angels are coming to take them home.
Eternal Gospel of the Three Angels' Messages of Eternal Salvation of Mankind. Click on our videos below or purchase a DVD and know the everlasting truth and save your soul now. Feel the drama, feel the excitement and see the second coming of God.
The theme of the Bible is Jesus and how he died to save man. The plan of salvation assures us he's coming back again. Are you ready for Jesus to come? Are you faithful in all that you do? Have you fought a good fight? Have you stood for the right? Have others seen Jesus in you? Are you ready to stand in your place? Are you ready to look in his face? Can you look up and say, "This is my Lord"? Are you ready for Jesus to come? Don't cling to the world and its treasure. This earth will soon pass away. Oh, give him your love without measure. He's calling you today. Are you ready for Jesus to come? Are you faithful in all that you do? Have you fought a good fight? Have you stood for the right? Have others seen Jesus in you? Are you ready to stand in your place? Are you ready to look in his face?
men, for that beautiful song. Are you ready for Jesus to come? Good evening. My name is Marlon Palmer. I'm the video editor. I want you to buy this beautiful DVD, 13 set of the end times, and know all the things of the coming of Jesus, the end time crisis, the preparation, the food preparation, how to prepare your house, and most of all, how to prepare your life with Jesus. All the things, the Sunday law, the mark of the beast, all these real serious things that you always wanted to know in this action-packed DVD. 13 sets will put your life together. Everything in life you must prepare. You must prepare for the end. You can't just wait and hope that Jesus is going to fix all the pieces. You must prepare, because if you don't prepare, you may lose your soul. You don't know how hard this would have been. You don't know how devastating this would have been. You lost your house. You lost your property. You lost your wife, your family, your dignity. And now you're suffering and you're ready to turn back and go back to the world and live with the devil and die with the devil just because you want pleasure. Please get this DVD, End Time Angel Preparedness and the Coming of Jesus, for only $100, a 6-month money-back guarantee. You will never forget it. You will always remember it. You will know everything and how to prepare. God bless your soul, because Jesus is coming soon, and we must prepare. You can't just read the Bible. You can't just go to an SDA church or a Protestant church or a Catholic church and think you know all the truth. You must prepare. Prepare yourself physically. Prepare yourself mentally. Prepare yourself with all the resources you need so that the riots don't make you give in. And last of all, prepare your heart and soul for the coming of Jesus. Have a good evening.
Cristo que al vano europeo. Prefiero su gracia que a riquezas sin fin, a casas y tierras. Prefiero será de mi alma fuerte paladín, antes que ser rey de cualquier nación y en pecado gobernar. Prefiero a mi Cristo, sublime don, cual el mundo no ha de dar. No quiero el aplauso del mundo falaz, quale il mondo